Okay, so UK temporary staffing, right? Specifically Staff Direct. They're shouting pretty loudly about being the UK's #1 agency, saying they've got crazy fast fill rates and super happy clients.
Yeah, and they don't just want to fill jobs, they want to be like this big player in how London's job market is changing.
Which is interesting, right? Because, I mean, the gig economy is blowing up right now, and businesses need to, adapt super quickly.
Exactly. But are these guys just a quick fix, or are they the real deal? I mean, that's what we're going to look at today.
They throw some big numbers around to get your attention, that's for sure.
Yeah, like, what was it, 90% fill rate within 72 hours?
Yeah, 90% in 72 hours. It's kind of wild.
Yeah, and on top of that, they're saying 95% client satisfaction.
Yeah, those are some bold claims.
It makes you wonder, I mean, the range of roles they're dealing with, it's huge. We're not just talking about, like, entry-level stuff here. They say they've got specialists in everything from IT to healthcare to, like, super niche creative roles.
It's almost like they're saying, forget those other temp agencies. We're all about specialized solutions.
Right. And they even say they look beyond just basic skills. They actually think about cultural fit and company values,
Yeah.
which is kind of a lot, right?
How do you actually, I mean, how do you bottle that magic in this world of temporary staffing? It seems a little, I don't know.
Well, that's the million-dollar question, right? It all comes down to, like, are they all talk or is there some action behind those words?
Because they talk about this rigorous screening process.
Yeah, background checks, skills assessments, the whole 9 yards. It's like they're weeding out all the people who aren't right for the job so the hiring managers don't have to.
Yeah, I can see how that would be super appealing if you're a hiring manager who's totally swamped. Just to have someone else do that initial screening would be a huge time saver.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's not just about getting someone in the door, is it? They also talk about, like, ongoing support.
Yeah, onboarding, orientation, regular check-ins. It's like they become an extension of the client's HR team almost.
Which, I mean, for you, the listener, you have to think about what are you actually looking for?
Exactly, yeah.
Do you just need a warm body to fill a chair for a little bit? Or do you need someone who can actually, hit the ground running and work well with your team?
And they emphasize this idea that they're taking care of all the boring stuff.
The admin.
The contracts, the payroll, making sure everything's legal,
Yeah.
and that frees up the business to just focus on what they're good at.
Okay, so let's dig into this whole flexible staffing thing a bit more. Because it sounds awesome in theory, right? But what does it actually look like?
Yeah.
I mean, let's say you need someone to cover maternity leave for 6 months, or you need a whole team of people to work at a weekend festival. Can they really handle all of that?
It seems like they try to. I mean, they've got these dedicated teams for all sorts of things. Construction, IT, even super specific areas like marketing and finance.
So it's not just about chucking anyone at the problem.
It sounds like they're putting some thought into like what the industry actually needs, what skills are important,
Yeah.
and then trying to make sure they find the right person for that.
It all sounds pretty good when you put it like that. I mean, specialized teams, industry experts. But how much of that is just marketing,
Totally.
And how much is the real deal? Anyone can say they have the best people, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's where you got to like look past all the fancy words and try to find something solid. Some actual examples.
Concrete proof.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Do these testimonials actually support what they're saying? Have they actually helped companies solve real staffing problems?
It's like a restaurant, right? The menu looks amazing, but has anyone actually eaten the food and is it good?
Right.
Does Staff Direct actually deliver? Okay, so there are tons of testimonials, right? But they're pretty vague. Lots of happy customers, but no details.
It's true, yeah.
It's just like, oh, they were great to work with. It doesn't really tell you much, does it?
Yeah, you're right. They mentioned happy clients, healthcare, construction, admin, all sorts. But without any details, it's like, are these just made-up quotes that anyone could use?
Yeah, exactly. So, okay, let's say you're a tech startup in London. You need to, rapidly grow your dev team.
Right.
Would using Staff Direct be any different from just going to a regular temp agency? Would they really get what you need as a tech company?
Well, that's where this whole industry-specific thing comes in. They say they have these dedicated teams just for IT recruitment,
Okay.
which means, at least in theory, they understand the kind of language that's used, the specific skills you need, even the culture of the tech world.
Yeah.
They talk about using technology too, AI, to match candidates and even these virtual interview platforms.
Interesting. So it's not just about taking a bunch of resumes and throwing them at a wall and seeing what sticks.
Exactly. They're using data,
Yeah.
right, to narrow down to the best possible people on paper, at least.
which, again, for a busy hiring manager is super appealing. But let's be a bit cynical for a second. Even with specialized teams and algorithms, can a temp agency really get what it's like to be a startup? I mean, those companies are moving so fast. The culture is so unique.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, startups are all about being agile, right? Constantly innovating, crazy energy.
Yeah.
It's not that easy to recreate that with temps.
Yeah.
Even if they've got the skills, that energy might not be there.
Right.
And from the worker's side, being thrown into a super fast-paced, high-pressure environment, that could be a lot to handle.
Definitely.
It's not a one-way street,
Uh-huh.
It has to work for both sides.
Totally. And even if someone's only there for a few months, it's not like you can just drop them in and expect them to magically understand everything about how the company works.
Right, and that's why I think this whole emphasis on support that Staff Direct talks about is interesting.
Yeah.
Remember the onboarding, the orientation, the check-ins. It's about making the temp feel like an actual part of the team instead of just, another cog in the machine.
Right, even if it's just for a short time. And wouldn't that also impact the quality of their work?
Totally. Someone who feels welcome and valued, they're going to work harder, right? Even if they're not staying long-term.
Yeah.
When temps feel like part of the team, they're more engaged, more productive, and, even if it's just a few months, that positive experience, that turns into a good review for Staff Direct, which helps them get the next job.
It's all connected, right. Okay, so it sounds like finding the right fit, it has to go both ways.
Yeah.
But even with a company like Staff Direct trying to make everything smooth, aren't there just natural downsides to using temporary staff? What about the company culture, the team dynamic, all of that?
You're hitting on a really important point. It's like, how do you build something stable when the foundation keeps shifting? You need those core permanent employees to build the culture, to maintain the vision for the long term.
Exactly.
Yeah, for it can be tough. You're always the new person.
Like we were saying earlier, humans, we like to be part of something. We want to belong. If you're constantly moving around, that can get really lonely.
100%. And for the business, there's also this risk of losing knowledge. Every time a temp leaves, all their experience, their knowledge, it walks out the door with them.
It's like you invested all this time and money in training someone, and then poof, they're gone.
Exactly. So yeah, temp staff, they're great for handling those ups and downs, getting specialized skills.
Yeah.
But it's not a long-term solution. It's about finding the right balance.
Weighing it all up. Okay, that's a really good point.
Right. You have to think about your specific needs, your situation, and decide if it's the right choice. And just as important, you have to think about it from the worker side.
Yeah.
How can you make it a good experience for them, too? It's not just about the company.
It seems like with temporary staffing, it's really not one size fits all.
It's about making smart decisions that fit your goals and thinking about how you can build a good relationship, a win-win, between the company, the agency, and the worker. That's what's going to be crucial in the long run.
So we've talked a lot about, the business side of all this, how companies use temporary staffing, what the good and bad points are. But I think we should also talk about what it's actually like to be a temp.
Yeah, for sure. It's like we hear from the agencies, we hear from the companies, but what about the workers? What's their experience?
Right, exactly. So Staff Direct talks about how specialized they are, how much support they give. But does that actually mean anything for the people who are doing the work?
Right.
Are people choosing this because they like the flexibility, the variety, or are they doing it because they have to? Because London's expensive and they just need a job, any job.
That's a really important question. And it makes you think about this whole shift we're seeing in how people work. Staff Direct and a lot of agencies, they focus on the cool stuff about temping. Like you're in control of your schedule.
You get to try different things, maybe find a company you really like before you commit.
Exactly. But let's be real, it's not always perfect.
Yeah, definitely not.
You don't always know if you'll have work next month. You might not get paid if you're sick, maybe no benefits. It's got to be stressful.
Super stressful. And it's not just the practical stuff either, is it? Work is social. You want to feel like you're part of something. Can you really get that if you're always moving around, always the new person?
It's hard. We're social creatures, We want to belong somewhere. If you don't have that, it makes you unhappy.
For sure. And even if the company is trying to be welcoming, starting a new job over and over, that gets tiring.
Yeah, it's exhausting. So it seems like maybe being a temp is a lot more complicated than Staff Direct wants us to think.
Maybe. Yeah, definitely more complicated. So anyone thinking about temping, whether because they want to or because they have to, they need to really understand what they're getting into.
Exactly. The good and the bad.
And maybe even more importantly, make sure the agency isn't going to just throw them into any job to fill a spot. They need someone on your side, right?
Absolutely. And that brings us back to staff direct and whether they're as good as they say they are. Do their recruiters really get it? Do they understand not just the industry, but what the worker needs to be happy? Are they really trying to make a good match, or do they just care about those big numbers, those stats?
Because, let's be honest, if staff direct isn't treating their temps well, people are going to find out.
For sure. And as we move towards this, like, gig economy, more flexible work, treating temps fairly, that's becoming even more important. We need to be talking about this more.
Okay, so we've spent a lot of time on UK temporary staffing.
Yeah, we use staff direct as our example.
We looked at what they say, how they do it, and what it all means for both companies and workers.
We found some good things, definitely, but also some things to watch out for.
And I think most importantly, we talked about the human side of it all, which is easy to forget.
Yes, 100%.
So are staff directs numbers because they're really good at what they do and because they care about their workers? Or is it all just really good marketing? We've given you the information, you decide.
Exactly. We've given you the tools, hopefully some new ways of looking at things to help you navigate this whole work world, because it's definitely getting more complex.
So whether you're a company looking for people or someone looking for work, don't just focus on the numbers, the promises, how easy it sounds. Ask the questions that need to be asked. Do your homework. And choose a path that feels right for you, for your values. That's what matters.